You may not know this, but Malaysia is actually the sixth biggest exporter of chips. But at the tail end of it, it wants to climb up that value chain, and perhaps this deal is what they're looking for. Joining us now is Rafizi Ramli, Malaysia's economy minister. This is, of course, an exclusive interview. That deal set to take place later today. Minister, good to have you with us. Talk to us about the significance of this deal with Arm. How does it affect your chip ecosystem?
We have always wanted to move from the back end, which is on testing and assembly, to the front end, where in terms of the value, the back end only captures about 10 to 15% of the value of the supply chain, whereas 60% is more or less at the front end. But it's a lot more difficult because obviously it involves IPs. And if we were to wait for our own expertise to develop organically, most probably it's going to take much longer. So the government has taken a radical approach where we work with Arm, which is a market leader in IP architecture, with the perspective of building the whole ecosystem, and that will be able to complement our strength in back end, and then we'll accelerate our move towards the front end.
Just putting it out there, this is the first time Arm is actually signing a deal with a government. All the other times they were signing a deal with companies.
Yes, that's as far as we are concerned. This is the first time that Arm is signing an agreement with the government with a total view of building an overall ecosystem with the country.
IPs, access to IPs is not free. How much are you paying for that? And how many IPs are we looking at?
We have different layers of access. Predominantly, it's made up of 3 different layers. At the bottom of it is what we call Arm flexible access. This is where we allow startups and IC design companies access to a library of IPs. This should bring down the cost of R&D and entry into IC design significantly, and with a view of using this to also build the pipeline of engineers. The next level is compute subsystem. This is more or less designed chips that are almost ready to be used. It just requires some further design.
So, Minister, how many IPs and how much are you paying for them?
It's a $250 million for a 10-year program. And we think it's going to be consumed much faster than 10 years. And if it works well, and if we are able to get the final result that we want, then there's always consideration whether we want to scale this up further. So you're looking at 25 AFA, 7 compute subsystem, and a further access further down the line that we will announce in due time.
Quantify the impact on the economy. We're talking about a $250 million investment. Will that translate to perhaps an additional 1% growth to GDP?
Yeah, the rule of thumb is one compute subsystem based on the market now. If it tapes out, we'll be able to create a chip company with a revenue of about 1.5 to 2 billion dollar per annum, just one company per one compute subsystem. So you're looking about, hopefully we'll be able to create between 7 to 10 companies, and that alone will be able to create at least 15, $20 billion revenue per annum, not to mention the subsequent spillover effect to the overall ecosystem. So it's certainly something very significant further down the line.
So 1% to GDP, 2% of GDP.
I think it's fair to say that it will be able to go beyond 1%.
How quickly do you think Malaysia can produce its own chip?
We are trying to do it maybe between 5 to 7 years, because with the collaboration with Arm, it shortens the time for R&D into going to the market. So I think 5 to 7 years is something that is doable, especially when we are also trying to focus on building data server racks for data
Right.
centers, because there's already demand for it in Malaysia.
Reports have suggested that ARM itself is interested in producing its own chip. Of course, right now it's just licensing IPs. Would Malaysia be part of that?
I wouldn't know, because
Would you be interested in being part of that?
we'll be more than happy, and obviously there's some kind of special relationship that builds this collaboration. I don't know what is ARM's plan, but I hope that we will be able to build this collaboration.
Let's talk about what you know. We
Yeah.
know that GDP is poised to grow 4.5%, 5.5%.
Yeah.
Given the uncertain environment, is that still achievable? Would you have to perhaps review that growth target?
Not at the moment. I think we have a pipeline of investments, and I think the fundamental is still strong. Of course, everyone in the world now is reviewing how things are developing, but not at the moment. I think our projection is that it's going to be between 4.5 to 5.5.
All right, such confidence. Minister, thank you
Yeah.
for joining us. Rafizi Ramli.